This is Brian. He's unloading one of the bags of Fox 1440 panels, and they come 10 to a bag, and each one of those insulation tilt panels with furring is 5.33 square feet, and they're already been thrown into the sample panel we're going to pour here in a little bit. And to finish this row of tilt insert underlayment method, it's as simple as that. Down. And it's a pretty snug fit. And the advantage of these things is you can walk right on them, get them to go in. They're stouter than they look. So now what we've got is we've got a tilt-up panel that's furred out and insulated to 2.5 inches of 1.5 pound density foam. Simple as sleeving them in, and you hear the ratchet effect. And one of the nice features of the 1440 tilt insulation system is this open channel, so that you can come from either direction with the tilt inserts. So when we're up against the form board, you can actually come in from the other direction, and that'll lock it into place too. So these are kind of the heart of the heavy cabinetry on this tilt-up wall, and you needed to double up some mechanical fastening. You could do that right there. And what these tilt inserts are ratcheting into is this gripper assembly. So that's a tilt insert, and that gripper assembly is embedded in the foam, and it becomes a stud to the face of the concrete wall. Slots in just like that. And what that looks like on the foam panel itself, again, these are the tilt inserts. And what we did with this panel is we sliced off the face of the foam so you can see what you got really embedded in that foam panel. The studs 8 inches on center. And most guys are dropping these in at 16 on center to give that 16 on center structural fastening stud. Because the engineering on the panel stays the same, and how we chair the rebar on top of foam is important. And we recommend the flat plate bottom rebar chairs, something like this one or something like this one, that'll rather than point load into the foam, you can actually use a flat plate and do stuff like walk on it, put weight on it, walk on that rebar curtain on the wall, and it won't have any adverse effect on the foam. So we're placing concrete. It's about a 6-inch slump. Just perfect. I think that'll work. That worked out perfect.
No bull float?
No bull float.
Okay, you have to buy me a beer.
I will do it. I will do it. Wetset method, and it's done by constructing a panel array, and Brian's going to show how that's done.
So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to mark where the webs actually occur. You can maybe not pick it up so well on the video, but every 8 inches on center we have a much heavier indentation into the outside of the panel, and that's the exact center of each of the webs. In this case, we're just using some lightweight. These are about a 25 gauge metal stud, 2 5/8, and we just don't need a whole lot of structure to do what we're going to do because the panels are so light. So typically, we'll have 2 people doing this on a job site, one on each end, and this array could be 20 feet or something tall, long. And all we're trying to do is fasten these studs on. So that we'll have a method of lifting this array to wet set it into the concrete after it's been screeded off.
So groan. Oh, that was heavy. So this is the wet set method. And what typically you'll see on a job site, you'll see the guys with a 3/4 head stinger vibrator with a whip on it, and they'll lay the head of that right inside the steel stud, and they'll run it down the steel stud, and that'll actually consolidate that panel and drop the tilt inserts that we've seen right into the concrete. Or another method of making sure that the wet set is on there. That side's in, and then we would get the next panel array of Fox 1440 tilt. We would bring it over and we would set it up against that one, and so forth and so on. There have been projects where the tilt panel array has been 20 feet plus. The steel studs are a little heavier gauge, but it's the same concept. The guys are just coming over and setting them. So that's wet setting the Fox 1440 tilt panel. So this is after the pour and all the festivities. And Brian's taking the steel studs off. The wet set concrete panels are embedded in the concrete. So Brian's done popping the screws out, and we're going to kick the boards off, and that's what a concrete tilt-up panel looks like with the foam under it and as underlayment, and the foam on top of it as a wet set. We'll kick this one off as well. That's a tilt-up panel with the underlayment method and with the wet set method.